gentlemen, to perform the national anthem, Christopher Macchio.
Please welcome the Armed Forces Chorus and America's tenor, Christopher Macchio.
There's nobody with a voice like this man.
Christopher, do you think that classical music can heal traumas or emotional wounds?
If you have a special gift, you just have the opportunity to protect it, to cultivate it, to refine it, and to share it. I discovered that I actually had a voice.
How you discovered?
The chorus director asks each of us to sing in front of everybody else by ourselves, one by one by one. You can sing almost anything. What exactly is it you think you're going to do with your life? And I said, well, I'm going to be an attorney. That's the wrong answer. The Secret Service approached me and they said, Mr. Macchio, you have to come with us. I said, am I in trouble? What happened? President and the entire first family lined up in a big line and they looked up at the balcony and I sang. That was the real beginning of my special relationship with.
Happy birthday, dear Carlos. Happy birthday to you.
Aladetres.
So, we are delighted to be here with international vocalist Christopher Macchio. Thank you very much to stay here with us, who has recently become known as America's tenor after having performed the national anthem for the inauguration of the President Donald Trump. He will also be joining the administration as a board member of the National Endowment for the Arts. Thank you very much for staying here with all of us, Christopher.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here.
So I want to start knowing how you stay these days with Donald Trump and how you become the tenor of Donald Trump.
Well, I had the opportunity to meet then Donald Trump back about 10 years ago. And I filled in for a last-minute cancellation for New Year's Eve by Elton John, who was supposed to perform in the ballroom at Mar-a-Lago, and he couldn't make it. So on December 30th, of course, New Year's Eve is December 31st, 9 o'clock at night on December 30th, I received the call. They said there's nobody to sing something special for the New Year's Eve. So I just spoke with Donald over dinner, and he said, sure, why not bring him down? So I came down and I sang, and then I shook hands with Donald afterwards, and he told me my voice was really magnificent, and he introduced me to rock singer Rod Stewart, and I performed 1 week later at Rod Stewart's birthday party with all of the Hollywood celebrities and so forth. And then I went on with my career, and then he went into politics, and I really reconnected with that now President Trump in 2020. So about 4.5 years ago during COVID. Unfortunately, because of an accident, his brother passed away in 2020, August. And his brother had become a fan of mine because I was performing for some charities that he was involved with. So when he passed away, his widow, his wife, she called me and said, I don't know why, but God told me you have to perform the funeral. And so we did the funeral for President Trump's brother, Robert, at the East Room of the White House. And it was a very long funeral, 2.5 hours. I sang 10 musical selections. And the fifth one out of the 10 was the Lord's Prayer. And, the Our Father. And it has a very big ending. And I really did it really big, and the president was kind enough to jump out of his seat and give me a standing ovation in the middle of that memorial service. And afterwards he said, your voice is unbelievable. It reminds me of my old friend Luciano Pavarotti, who was, of course, the best opera singer in recent memory in the world. And so he said, I would love for you to perform after I make my speech for the Republican convention, which was taking place at the very same location at the White House 6 days after that, 6 days after the funeral. So I performed on television. I did the Ave Maria on the balcony of the White House, and really everybody loved it. And I had performed. He wanted me to sing after his speech, and they had scheduled, the TV people insist that I do it before all the speeches, and just to kind of be something nice for people while they're waiting for the speeches. So I sang all of the music, for 20 minutes worth of music before the speeches. And then when President Trump was watching the television, he goes, "Why is he singing now? He's supposed to sing after my speech, not before." So once I had finished, I was on the lawn watching some of the speeches with the news reporters from Fox News and so forth. And the Secret Service approached me, and they said, "Mr. Macchio, you have to come with us." I said, "Am I in trouble? What happened?" And they said, "No, the president wants you to do all the music over again after the speech." So I did before the speech and then again after the speech. And they told me, "Oh, after his speech, he's going to wave to the crowd for 2 minutes, and then you don't have to sing all the songs, just enough for him to wave, go back inside." Well, instead of going back inside, the president and the entire first family lined up in a big line, and they looked up at the balcony, and I sang all of the music again for 20 minutes. And they did it because they wanted to share this music with the country, with the world. And so they knew if they stood there and looked up that the news media would have to cover it and put it on television. And so that was the real beginning of my special relationship with the president. He's been so generous in providing me opportunities to share my passion for music and my love for my country with the rest of our fellow citizens and people around the world. So it's been a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm. And when this love for the music starts?
Well, I grew up in a house that really had an appreciation for music. Sometimes my parents would sing a little bit around the house, not opera, but just a little something. And there was always music on in the background. So I had some kind of appreciation, but really it went to another level when I discovered that I actually had a voice.
And how you discovered?
Well, I had an idea when I bought the soundtrack to The Godfather Part 3. You're familiar with the movie The Godfather. Mm-hmm. So in the third film, Michael Corleone, the Godfather's son, becomes an opera singer as part of the plot of the movie. And so when I purchased the soundtrack, a CD with all the songs, all the music from it, it had some opera on there. It had some jazz, some pop, and some opera. And so as I would listen to the CD, I would copy all of these different styles of music, the pop, the jazz, and the opera. And I said, wow, I can even do the opera. That's funny. But I kept that a secret. I only kept it for myself. I didn't want anybody to know that I could sing because I was very shy. I wanted to just be alone reading books, and I didn't want anyone to ask me to sing. So I kept it a secret. And so I came to this realization privately at around 13 years old. 2 years later, at 15, I had to be in the chorus in my high school to satisfy a graduation requirement. You have to do some kind of art or music just so, you check all the boxes. And so I was in the chorus. I figured nobody's going to know I can sing because there's 100 other people, 100 other children, students in this chorus. And one day, the chorus director asks each of us to sing in front of everybody else by ourselves, one by one by one. And I was I had stage fright. I was too scared to do it. I told him no. He said, everybody else is doing it. You have to do it too. I said, no, they could do it. I'm not doing it. Throw me out, I don't care. Give me the bad grade, doesn't matter. So at the end of that class, all of the other students left, and he took me by the arm and just said, Now you just sing for me a little, just so I can know where, for the performance, where you need to stand so it sounds good, balance the sound. So I started singing, and he goes, "Oh my God, I can't believe this voice." And he then gets up from the piano, he runs to the file cabinet, he takes the music, and he's looking for different things to see what kind of different music I can sing. Music is flying everywhere, and he goes back to the piano, and at the end of it, he says, "Wow, you can sing almost anything. What exactly is it you think you're going to do with your life?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to be an attorney." And he told me, "That's the wrong answer. You have a gift from God, and you must share this gift." And in that one moment with that teacher, everything in my life changed from that point going forward.
So if God gives to you a gift, you have the moral, I don't know.
Yeah,
You
I
need
think there is.
to give profit.
Yeah, I think, obviously everybody at the end of the day has to do in their heart what they feel is right. But yeah, it's my belief that if you have a special gift, that it's not really yours. You just have the opportunity to protect it, to cultivate it, to refine it, and to share it. And the older I've gotten, the more I realize that the only way anything has meaning is when it is, shared with love, with other people. I've traveled around the world, and many times I stay in the finest hotels, a beautiful suite, and it means very little when there's nobody to share it with. When you check into huge, beautiful hotel all alone, and you have this human instinct. You want to show some. Oh, can you imagine how beautiful this is? The beautiful hotel in Paris. You could see the Eiffel Tower, and if there's nobody that you can share this with, then it just doesn't have meaning. And I think so many things in life that are important, operate the same way, where they only really take on true meaning when they are shared with love, with people in your friends, family, and of course your fellow citizens.
Mhm. And do you think that opera is most transcendental than other kinds of
More what?
music? Transcendental, like
Well, absolutely. and it's, obviously as an artist, you hesitate to promote some kind of hierarchy, or one genre of music is better than another. But and I might be a little biased, but I definitely think that each of the artistic disciplines, whether it be music and singing, or whether it be dance, that they have a modality that represents the ultimate level of refinement for that particular discipline. So, for example, I'm not a dancer at all, but I understand enough about art that ballet, for example, serves as the foundation for kinesthetics, for movement, the graceful elegance moving about this performance space. So in that sense, ballet, because it's the most refined, the most elevated, I think it really serves as the example for the other types of dance, and they can make changes so that people can find it more relatable or a closer connection to everyday life. But the foundation and the ultimate refinement of movement is in ballet. And for me, I believe, in my opinion, that opera represents that for singing, that it's the loudest, it's the most sound volume and the purest and roundest and most pleasing. It's like a concentration of sound. The whole point of the opera technique is to maximize and balance the sound that is capable of being produced by the human body. And then when you go in another direction and you perform a different type of music, then really you're just making those adjustments so that it's, you're taking away some of the intensity, you're taking away some of the purity and concentrationness. It's like if you have orange juice, right from the orange is the purest form of the orange juice, and then maybe if it's too strong for you, you add some water and you still feel like you have a little bit of an orange flavor, but it's not so strong. It's the same thing in my view with the music. If opera is too intense for this moment, then you can have another genre, but the good singing should always, in my opinion, be based on an awareness of the fundamental and universal techniques that opera uses, because again, this is the science, the physiology, where you're maximizing the capacity of the body to create sound.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think about trap, reggaeton, and Bad Bunny?
Well, I guess there is those types of music. It's not some of those things aren't necessarily what I connect with personally the most, but I do know that my musical taste is varied enough that you can say there is a time and a place to experience these different kinds of music. And obviously, at the end of the day, the purpose of art is to articulate certain realities of the human condition. And so if opera represents this elevated sensibility, then maybe there are parts of the human condition that are less elevated, that are more primal, that are closer to, instincts, instinctual impulses. And so some of those genres, I think, maybe access some of those other parts of the brain as opposed to... So maybe there's a time and place. I don't believe in censorship, of course, but I do think that where some of those types of music go wrong or go into an unhealthy space is when they explicitly try to talk about things that bring the human condition down, that where they talk about people or they talk about emotions that are vulgar or have a negative energy, where they try to almost make people feel that they are, that they are similar to beasts, animal, and as opposed to something that is hopefully created in the image of God and has a noble nature to it. So yeah, I would say, that there's a time and a place, but certainly music like opera really appeals to the nobler part of our human nature. And at this time, 2025, I think the population is starving for this because our culture has, in my opinion, reached a low point. It's almost hard to imagine how we could get any more vulgar and negative than the point that we're at now. And so it's my hope that not just opera, but other types of art that have a more refined aesthetic and sensibility and soul and core to them can return to the space that they used to occupy, where there is respect. Even if somebody's not listening to this, absorbing this art all the time, 24 hours a day, that there is a respect amongst the people and a respect for this material and for this art in the overall culture, in the media, in the messages that the different organizations and institutions that have power, that the messages that they try to send. I mean, institutions are, let's say when you design a building, you can design this building to make people feel like they are part of a noble species that creates beautiful structures, as opposed to where small, insignificant little parts of a machine, like some kind of, socialist aesthetic. So, and so those messages, they might not be written or spoken, but they are communicated subconsciously through different policies or different objects that we interact with as we go through our lives. And so hopefully we can put that more noble spirit into all of those things, into policy, into law, and into the physical objects that we surround ourselves with.
Mm-hmm. But why there are a lot of young people that listen reggaeton or something like that and don't listen opera? And in the other hand, do you think that classical music can heal traumas or emotional wounds? Or...
Yes. As far as what the appeal is, I think that the reason they're currently listening to this material is partly because, especially when you're at a young age, you're coming into awareness of some of these impulses, these instincts. You're just discovering your sexuality, and some of the desires that an adult human experiences, not just sexually, but just, you go as a child and your parent kind of feeds you, for example. And then as you get older, you decide when you're going to eat, what you're going to eat, and all of the different biological needs that you have, you kind of process and figure out, well, how are you going to live your life and serve those, those needs. And so when you're young, it's kind of underdeveloped and you're kind of in this process of discovery. And so some of this material, whether in music, it's a reggaeton and trap, they appeal to that kind of, internal chaos that you're feeling, and the hormones are going, and it might be exciting to kind of go in that direction for some people, maybe. It wasn't ever my thing, but I imagine maybe for some people it's they're discovering their sexuality, and the music gives them increased access to that energy, and so they like it. But it's the other side to this equation, in my view, as to why that they're absorbing this, is because there's a conscious effort by businesses, by the institutions, to make money off of this. Actually, two things: to make money off of this, and in my view, it's easier to, one of the things that institutions and governments are interested in all the time is control. Even if they think it's for a good purpose, and they think that they know what is good for people, and so they feel that to establish some kind of control is a good thing because, well, we know what's best, we're educated, we study the issues, and now we're going to establish control so that everyone can have a good life. We know how to achieve it. And so when people feel like they are, not so noble, then their desire to think for themselves, to act independently, is decreased, in my view. And they're more likely to just say, hey, as long as the government is, making it easy for me to be fed and to have a house, and now I can spend my time just seeking low pleasures, maybe do some drugs, maybe have some sex, and seeking those low pleasures. And then you have the media that is glamorizing this and saying, well, this is good, this is cool, this is what everybody is doing. Everybody's having sex, everybody's doing drugs, everybody's getting tattoos from head to toe and on their face and all this kind of stuff. And the Hollywood movies are amplifying this, and the sports, the soccer players, the football players, and so unfortunately the culture plays a big role in reinforcing this as well. And it's always easier to make money appealing to something quick and easy and, to the low senses. And it takes more education and more thought and more patience and more development to have a true connection to things that are more elevated. But it's totally possible. I mean, we have had periods of our civilization where those art forms were more primary, were more in the center of the discussion in public. Again, it doesn't mean that that was all that the average person on the street was absorbing, but they understood that this represented the best, and that they were, even as an average citizen, the member of a race, a species that was capable of producing this kind of beauty. So where we go from here, in my view, is to kind of establish new associations with this material that we're talking about. Too often, the only people that remain that are enjoying this kind of material are sometimes very academic or very wealthy, and so it becomes less and less accessible to the average people who, let's say, they're looking at your normal television networks and they're not just going to the opera house or something like this. So after World War II, there was, for example, there was an effort to use the new media like television to bring things like the opera to all of the citizens. So in this country, for example, the United States, opera, people knew about the opera, and but for the first time they were seeing an opera on television. If maybe they live in a rural area, they're never going to even go to New York City, never mind buy an expensive ticket to the opera, but they were presenting opera on the television so that people could get exposed to this. And that the exposure is a big key, that because right away the intrinsic merit, the intrinsic value and appeal of some of these forms of art, it's very clear and immediately accessible. When someone sees, somebody dancing the beautiful ballet, the Swan Lake, the appeal of that kind of graceful, elegant movement is just obvious to a great many people. And then to further expand and amplify that effect, you can provide some additional context, some education about what the meaning of this art form is and how it was achieved. And then with marketing, you can make new associations. Wouldn't it be wonderful if there were more movies or that showed this kind of thing happening? You had the only movie that I can think of in recent memory that starred a major Hollywood figure for ballet, for example, was Black Swan, and it was about murder and horrible things. And wouldn't it be nice if, these very famous, wonderful, talented Hollywood stars, actors, actresses were on a more regular basis putting material out there that created positive associations with some of these disciplines? I mean, when was the last time you saw a movie about an opera singer? Very rare. One good note, for example, Angelina Jolie just depicted Maria Callas on a Netflix movie. I think it was Netflix. Mm-hmm. So a lot more of that kind of association is needed. They really have to, create those associations. And again, especially like how do you tailor it to the young crowd? Well, you don't show a bunch of very elderly, old, wealthy people watching opera. You show it what it would be like. You show them what it would be like for a bunch of beautiful, young, healthy, teenagers to sit and enjoy this and just let this beautiful music wash over them, and for them to be inspired by it, the intrinsic value of it. So I think, it's been my personal experience, for example, that I have the opportunity to deliver opera in places or to people that would not typically, absorb this music. Like with the politics, President Trump has provided this opportunity for me to perform at these Trump events. And, you're probably aware that the stereotype of a typical Trump supporter is not the kind of person that is, going to the opera and all this, So I would sing, perform a piece on television, and every time I would get so many messages from people all around the United States, who and a lot of times their message was to the effect of, I never heard this kind of music before, and I was just so shocked. I've heard of opera, but I never actually listened to it, and I just couldn't believe how beautiful it was, and I don't even understand Italian, but just the music was touching. And so right there, it's proof, that
this is the best part of sing opera for the president, the reactions of the people.
Oh yeah, well, so I think, the president he also just likes surrounding himself with things that he enjoys personally. So there's that. And being somebody who instinctively knows how to connect with masses of people, I think that his instinct was that I am going to showcase Christopher and put him out there and let him sing, and these people are just going to love it, even in parts of the country that don't usually pay attention to things like opera. And he was 100% correct. And I think he wanted to make a statement as well, especially this last couple of election cycles. President Trump is Republican, the conservative party in this country. And then there's, on the opposite side, the Democratic Party. And for the last few presidents that were Democratic, or candidates that were Democratic, they would have, music that was really emphasizing some of this more base, vulgar kind of aesthetic sensibility. And so I think also he thought it would be valuable to showcase in front of everyone a contrast and say, okay, you've got rap and this kind of music for the Democratic side, and people saying bad things and vulgarities and just things that diminish women, all kinds of bad things that somehow in this bizarre world that we're in, down is up, bad is good, vulgarity is promoted, and it's just the values have been turned upside down. And so I think he wants to be a part of changing that dynamic. And so he wanted everyone to see, okay, so they're having all of this crazy music on their side. We're going to have something that's more meaningful. And I think he was extremely wise, to make a decision like that. And I'm very grateful he did.
Si te está gustando la entrevista, este es el momento de suscribirte. Así nos ayudas a seguir creando contenido y entrevistas de valor para todos vosotros. Muchísimas gracias. And do you think that classical music can heal people?
Yes.
Like if I am in bad moments, or any young man or woman, the classical music can help him?
Absolutely. I think we've seen that, that at the same time that all of this vulgar music is rising in popularity, so is rising drug use, depression, especially in the young, and suicide. A lot of, you've never had young people trying to kill themselves at the rates that they're trying to do now. And so if this vulgar music is going along with some of these very disturbing trends, then I think absolutely the opposite will be true of some of this more beautiful art, including the beautiful music. It's funny. They've done experiments, both formal and informal. They've done it in the laboratory. What are the effects on a violent person of putting like Mozart or classical music? and they can see the parts of the brain that mediate violence, that aggression. Are the activity in these areas is lowered when the brain is exposed, or the patient is exposed to this beautiful, soothing classical music. And that's in a formal setting. In an informal setting, there are places, even around here in Florida, like let's say it's a bad neighborhood, a poor neighborhood, there are stores that are the victims. People come in stealing and robbing and committing crime and the stores will have classical music playing outside of the store. And so the people that are really, really bad people are just less likely to even walk in that direction, because it's incompatible with the violence and the crime. And the people that do make it into the store, they cannot help but be calmed down by being exposed to this. They've even done it on the public transportation in San Francisco, the BART system, where they were having a lot of crime. People were like robbing people and stabbing people while they waited for the train to come. And so they installed all these speakers at all of the stations, and they put the classical music,
Wow.
and the rate of crime went down. And the only thing different was that they were playing classical music in that space. So I do think that it could heal individuals and also help to heal the overall society as well.
Mm-hmm. And Christopher, what about you? What crossed your mind seconds before you go to the stage?
In general, I try to envision a successful outcome. I literally picture it in my mind. What is it going to look like to have the audience in front of me? And then what is it going to look like and feel like when there is a successful outcome? I imagine myself delivering the music and everybody is just loving everything. And then once it's finished, I imagine them, giving me a standing ovation. And pretty much when I take the time to envision this kind of scenario and this outcome, then that's exactly what happens. And you could call it whatever you want to call it, manifestation or whatever. But I even did it with the president when I performed at the funeral at the White House. I had a line of people taking pictures with me, and while I'm on, I saw the president on the other side of the hallway, and I thought, wouldn't it be so amazing if he just called me over and told me how amazing I was? And then 10 seconds later, he called me over and told me how amazing I was. And I was like, this is exactly how I imagined it in my head. And I should have imagined that he said, Christopher, here's a check for $10 million. That's what I should have done. But yeah, it was really a wonderful, reality to manifest, in such a short period of time, 10 seconds. But so that's really what I'm usually thinking. Now, there are times where the occasion is special, where it's not just in, another one of a series of performances, but rather there's a special context. And so I'm also aware of that. And for example, sometimes if there's extremely famous people that are in the crowd, I'd also take an extra moment to remind myself that, everybody is ultimately the same. We're all equal. And so I don't have any extra burden or something extra to be concerned about. Everybody, from people of very limited means to the wealthiest people, respond in a similar way, in a human way. And so all I need to do is stay focused on giving the best possible performance, sharing my love and my passion with all of the people, regardless of who they are. And if I can do that, then I know it's going to be another successful outcome. And the only other caveat to that is every once in a while, I might be sick, and I might, my voice might be in bad condition. You know, I actually was sick the day of the inauguration.
Wow.
And so the only additional thing besides envisioning a successful outcome is to also remember that performances and art are not about perfection. They're not about proving to anyone that I'm perfect. Of course, I'll never be perfect. None of us will. But it's really just about the audience, about creating an experience amongst the crowd that they can be reminded of how beautiful it is that they are alive and that they're human beings. It's not about the one person delivering the performance, but the 100 or 1,000 or 1 million people that are experiencing music, experiencing the art. And once I keep that in mind, it gives me the freedom to not be perfect or to be too focused on perfection. And so even if I'm sick, not feeling well, the voice is not at 100%, I know that by using my technique and using my experience, performance experience, and that I can combine that with maintaining that perspective that I'm here to share. I'm not here to be perfect. I'm just here to share something beautiful with you, and I hope you enjoy. And really, that is the secret to a successful performance, in my opinion.
And how you prepare your voice. Can you show us how you prepare it?
Well, I don't. I do try to just warm up a little bit, and just go through the runs and stuff like that. And, you just, it wakes up and increases the blood flow to that area. And then, and gets, everything lubricated. You want everything to be, nice and moist and lubricated in the larynx. And so, yeah, that's really the main thing. And, I happen to be at an age and an experience, I don't have to focus too much on the warming up like the way I used to when I was younger. The voice kind of just knows what it needs to do at this point for the most part. So I just kind of get that process going a little bit. You get the flexibility. It's kind of like an athlete, You don't have to do like a crazy workout before you go on to the soccer pitch or whatever, but you just do some stretches and you just get it. The blood is going, and then you say, "Okay, I'm ready for action." And so, pretty much that's what I do. And of course, before a performance, like way before, the number one thing for a singer is a lot of sleep. And to stay hydrated, make sure that you get enough water, enough liquids into your system. So sleep and hydration are very, very important for a singer.
And what is the most important, the most important thing that you need to know, and the most difficult part of the actuation?
Of singing?
Yes.
Well, in terms of the most difficult thing, I guess it's just how to achieve. I hesitate to use the word difficult, but I guess in some respects it is. Achieving the largest, most concentrated sound while limiting or eliminating the actual tension in the body. And it sounds almost counterintuitive. How can you have such an intense sound if you're not having all of this like tension in your body and just like, and the truth is that the physiology of it is that your body can produce the most sound when it is most relaxed. The only part from head to toe that should be very tight is the diaphragm, because that's the foundation of everything. But everything else when it's relaxed, it creates the biggest possible space for the resonance. So imagine if imagine a guitar, an acoustic guitar, and imagine if the guitar, every time it got like tight, it would get smaller, and then when it got relaxed, it would get bigger. Well, the relaxed state of the guitar would be bigger and have more room inside for the resonance to happen. And if it was smaller, it would make a smaller kind of sound as opposed to a warm, full sound. And it's the same with the body. If you relax, then you create more space inside for the sound to get bigger and warmer and more beautiful, more colorful. And that's what you want. The only tension, the foundation, everything else, they tell you in singing, yawn. Oh, oh. You just want to yawn that tone out. And the only thing holding it all together is the diaphragm down here.
And what is the importance of the respiration?
Well, it's everything. It's the fuel for the sound, of course. But the trick is, again, almost counterintuitively, you might think that, well, if you're going to make a big opera sound, that you have to blow out a lot of air, like, oh, but it's actually the opposite. It's almost like, if you take a balloon and then you fill the balloon, if you blow all the air out quickly, it just goes, oh, and that's it. But if you go and let the air out just a little bit at a time, and that's kind of that breath, they call that in singing breath control. And if you can just get a little bit of breath out, so you're holding it with your foundation is the diaphragm, and you can extract a lot of sound from just a little bit of breath, and that's how you can sing a long phrase. Pop singers, sometimes they gotta take a breath every few words, and I said, and then I went down the street, yeah. As opposed to opera, you could just, you could sing for 30 seconds almost.
Wow.
And not take a breath, because it's just so refined and so pure.
And how it's to sing 30 seconds. And you sing 30 seconds.
Yeah. Sometimes it's almost a game. Like, like if a song is a short song, in the past I've tried to see, can I sing the whole song on one breath? I won't try it here right now, but I have to sing later, as you know. We have a wonderful Catholic concert at Mar-a-Lago coming up. But yeah, like I've done that in the past where, it's not the most artistically nuanced approach to try to sing a song in one breath, but it is fun to take your technique to the extreme.
Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, dear Carlos, happy birthday to you.
There you go. That's one breath. I didn't get to take a full one, but you get the idea.
And what is the most impossible song?
Most impossible
The most
song?
difficult. Yes.
I guess, well, to some extent, that question relates to what any individual singer's strengths and weaknesses are, but I guess the things that make any song more difficult than another are the range. What is the difference between the lowest note of the song and the highest note of the song? Because obviously all of us, we have a voice that, can create a sound within a certain range of the human spectrum, and so the lower, the greater the distance, obviously you have to have a more refined voice or a more talented voice to cover that much space, to really go low and then to go really high. The other thing can be also the flexibility. How fast are you changing notes, and how precisely are you changing notes? In classical opera, they call it a run, and so like in La Donna Mobile, there's like a run in that, and you go, and they say, so you're going, you're running up and down. See, now that tells you I'm a tenor because I couldn't just sing the run without the high note that comes after it. So, but you get the idea.
Okay. And to finish the interview, two things. The first of all, it's what advice can give you to all the people that listen to this interview?
Well, advice on music, I would say it's not an easy profession to go into. Anything in the arts is, it's especially today, especially if you're in a country that does not have extensive government support for the arts. It can be challenging. And as we talked about, the current cultural climate is not necessarily, the most advantageous to what we're trying to do. So you would have to go into it looking at performing and creating beautiful elevated art as an opportunity to make a change in society and to create and distribute something that is meaningful. The one advantage, I guess, is that if all of this, if most of the material out there is negative in nature, then there's less competition in the beautiful elevated space. So, I would say you really just have to be willing to make the sacrifices that are necessary to pursue it, and just maintain that belief that if you really persist and you stick with it, that eventually the right opportunities will arrive, or you'll have the opportunity to create those opportunities for yourself, and that you will ultimately achieve your goals, whatever those goals might be, and reaching wide audiences and so forth. And on a larger scale outside of the arts, I think these principles ultimately apply to anyone looking to make a meaningful contribution to life. My advice to anyone, whether they're an artist or not, is to use whatever gifts you've been given in the service of others, because again, that is really how they take on real meaning. If you only use your gifts to serve your own self-interest, it's a smaller life that you'll be living, and it's not that you're losing anything by giving to others. It's the only true way to receive something that is the most worthwhile. It's the only path that you can be truly filled up. You will never fill be whole just doing things for yourself, so you will feel more complete, well-rounded person the more that you're able to focus on others outside of yourself. That's the best advice that I can give.
Beautiful words, Christopher. Thank you very much. And to finish, could you sing a part of your favorite song?
Okay. Forgot about that. All right. Here we go. Here's a little something.
Okay.
From the Puccini opera Turandot.
Mm-hmm.
Nessun dorma, the end. So there you go.
Thank you very much.
Si te ha gustado esta entrevista, tenemos otra por aquí que te va a encantar. Muchísimas gracias.
Aladetres,